folks. Welcome back to the Heritage Boatworks podcast. This is episode number 18. Hey folks, welcome back. I hope you like my new music. I'm trying to go a little more of the legal route to try to, so I don't get in trouble with any copywriters. I've put some stuff up on YouTube. They're not videos, they're just the podcast recordings. But with the old music on there, YouTube has kind of flagged me and said, hey, that's copywritten music and you can't use it. So I've stopped using that and kind of purchased my own music. I'd love to say I played that myself, but I've never had any luck at playing any instruments. Tried the guitar for a little while, but it really just didn't work out. So let me start out with an apology. I'm sorry I'm a little late here with my November podcast. It's been pretty hectic around the holidays with 3 kids and a wife that works in retail. So it's been pretty maddening around here. And throw on the fact that my family, kids, man, I'll tell you, they're like little petri dishes. They go to school, they collect all the colds, and they bring home, and they bring them all home, and it's like a cold and virus buffet when they come home. And I caught something. It's nothing major, but it's just giving me this little cough. So I really, you might notice my voice a little different now, and I apologize for that, but just kind of recovering, getting through the cough. So I'll try to go back and edit out any coughs that I have, but I apologize for those in advance. I'm going to keep my intro fairly brief today because the interview this month was pretty long, and it was amazing. It was Dan Shea at Bristol Boat Company, and truly a craftsman and an asset to the world of wooden boat building. This is a man who really just sees the integrity in the designer's designs, regardless of the era. And when he is repairing, I say the word repairing loosely because it's almost as if he doesn't believe in it. He doesn't repair boats, he restores them. He puts so much weight in the accountability and the responsibility portions of restoring a wooden boat, that it's just a real asset to the wooden boating community to have somebody that isn't just really going to put the planks back on and get the boat functional again, but is going to bring the boat back to what the designer originally intended. And it was really a joy talking to him. He's a great boat person. And a great person in general. Just seemed like a lot of passion there in boating. So enough. I could ramble on all day. It was a great interview. I had a blast. I could have spent the whole day there. So I'm going to keep my intro brief so we can get right to that because it's a great one. Members are up another 9%, almost 10%, but we'll stick it at 9 here. So just happy to see the growth back after last month. I think I was up 3 or 4%. So this is it's nice to see another jump. And I leave it to you folks to be my evangelists out there. If you've got friends that are into boating or carpentry or anything like that, or just enjoy the good stories from around New England, by all means, spread the word, get them to sign up. Obviously, You've seen in your monthly invoices that I send out every month that invoices, that'd be pretty funny, that there's no costs here. I'm just doing this out of for a hobby for myself, and I am making a little bit of money on advertising. So spread the word, get it out there. I'd love to see more people sign up. The more the merrier. And that's a good segue into my next section, which is my t-shirts. I know we're all scratching our heads for gift ideas out there. I have designed a Heritage Boatworks t-shirt. It's not those cheap t-shirts that you buy for $100 at some concert. These are Hanes Beefy Tees. They're nice t-shirts that you'll get many years out of. And then when they're all done being worn, you can take Hanes beefy tees down into the shop and cut them up and use them for rags. It's just a nice soft cotton. I'm actually wearing one right now, and I wish you could see it. It looks fantastic. But if you're looking for a t-shirt, I haven't ordered them all yet. I'm trying to get an idea of the interest. Go to heritageboatworks.com/t-shirt, all one word, the letter T and shirt. If you could just fill out the form there, you're not obligated to buy anything. I'm just trying to get an idea of what size order I should place for these. I'd like to get them out there and get people wearing my shirts. They're great. I'm going to keep the price low on them. The more I order, obviously, the lower I can keep the price. So if you're interested in a t-shirt, by all means, hop on that webpage and just fill out that quick form and let me know you're interested, and I'll get an order placed and we'll start shipping those out. They're really nice. I get a lot of compliments on it, a lot of questions. Enjoy the interview. I'm not gonna bore you with any more of my details. Well, I'll tell you what. I will bore you for a couple more minutes. The boat building is going well. It's slowed down a little bit in December. December is a crazy month for us every year. My wife is heavily involved in a retail business, and it's a kind of company that they make like 50% of their money in the 11 months of the year, and then they make the other 50% in December. So it's just chaos. And she's tapped, and I'm taking the kids. So come January, things are gonna free up quite a bit. So I've been doing a little bit here and there and tinkering with the boats. It's been fun, but nothing major. Well, I did get the compass inlay installed in Harry's kayak. So if you want to take a look on the website at that, you can just go onto my blog. If you click on the right side, everything's divided into categories. If you just click on the kayak section, you'll see that most recent blog is about the inlay. It came out beautiful, and I'm looking forward to get a coat of epoxy and fiberglass on there. So Harry's going to be very excited. So by all means, check it out. Enjoy the interview. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I had a great time. I'm actually already looking forward to getting back and doing interview number 2 with Dan at some point. I think he's got a ton of information for us. And without further ado, and before I cough, take it away, Dan. Okay, so welcome back. We are in Bristol, Rhode Island at the Bristol Boat Company. And I am here with Dan Shea Jr. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thanks.
So Dan gave me a tour. This is a pretty amazing space in here. We are right across the street from the Herreshoff Museum. And this place is a bit of a Herreshoff museum in itself. Many 12.5s in here. Just a beautiful shop and very meticulously maintained and very efficient. It's pretty impressive in here. So let's start with you, Dan. How about go back as far as high school? What'd you do after high school, we should say? Oh, you know what? I'd love to hear about Dan Shea Sr. Was he into boats?
No, not so much. But oddly, my grandfather, Edward, who came to live with us, who was an accountant by trade, had some penchant for seeing boats and ships get launched.
Okay.
So one of my jobs was to drive him around, and we would go to the various commercial and military and yacht yards in and around Green Bay, my hometown, to see the boats get launched, which was pretty exciting.
Right.
And I'm often asked, well, they build boats in Wisconsin? Well, there's this thing called the Great Lakes, which, needed lots of transportation. So there were large and small boat yards, commercial craft being built, up to 1,000 feet, and then also some pretty serious military construction going on.
Mm-hmm.
So there was lots of boat and shipbuilding, and the launchings was part of my
Now, do you think
duties to go see.
Do you think that kicked off your interest at that point, or?
Well, it did in that There was one particular yard in Sturgeon Bay, Palmer Johnson, that we saw several launchings at. And growing up in Green Bay, a friend of mine's uncle had a one-man wood boat shop down on the river, which was exactly a great place to go all the time. So there was the one-man boat shop, all his old rudder magazines, and really fascinating to watch somebody put a bunch of wood in the water that didn't sink
Right.
like ours did. You quickly learn if you can see daylight, water comes in.
Right.
So there was that experience, and then seeing boats and ships, which was all marvelous, and questioning how did they do that. I also was fortunate to go to the World's Fair in Montreal, and the Canadian Exposition was building the Blue Nose replica there.
Okay.
And that was right inside the main gate, which is as far as I got for a week. And I got to sit in the bleachers and watch them build this. And the gentleman by the name of Mr. Stevens, who was the boss from near Nova Scotia, in Nova Scotia near Halifax, saw me there every day, and I think on the last day he let me do a couple things. So that was impressive to me.
Right. Yeah.
And in fact, on my first vacation from my first boat building job, I packed up my wife and 5-month-old kid, and we drove out to Nova Scotia to see this Mr. Stevens.
Nice.
And yeah, so it's just rich.
Right.
It was rich from the start.
Yeah.
So good fit.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so what was that first boat building job?
It was for the yacht yard called Palmer Johnson Boats. They had been in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin since, in various iterations, since the turn of the century.
Yeah.
They go back 18 something.
And you started sweeping the floors there?
Well, yeah, that was basically it. I had wanted to get an apprenticeship building furniture, and there just wasn't the trade. And the one gentleman that I wanted to go to work for was in his 80s, and he said, I just can't.
Yeah.
But I did want to learn the joiner furniture trade, and yacht building was really the only avenue for really doing authentic woodwork and joiner work
And what
to a
year
high
was that
degree.
about?
73.
Okay.
So it really was bothering them long enough that they finally hired me. And started sweeping the floors and helping out. And at the time, the yard, and in particular the joiner shop, was populated by Belgian Americans. So English as a second language didn't exist. So the whole shop basically spoke Belgian all day.
Right.
So you had to learn a bit by osmosis, and also, it takes a while for somebody to, put time into showing the kid what to do.
Especially in a different language.
Yeah. And it was a pretty rich historical place. There were still wooden boats that were built there, fish tugs, and some wooden yachts, and at the same time they had made the transition from wood boat building to aluminum. So the new construction was predominantly aluminum, and the prior owner was actually co-founder of Texas Instruments,
Oh, wow.
and an avid sailor. So he was really into innovation.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very innovative yard, but at the same time, it had one foot in traditional building, lofting, hand skills, and new use of materials, all about stronger, lighter, better,
Right.
stronger, lighter, better, stronger, lighter, better.
Yeah. So
And-
where did you go after that?
Well, I was going to say from day one, at the first break, I sort of figured there wasn't a bad job in the place.
Right.
And to stay employed between projects, you would basically work all the trades. So you really did everything, or I got the opportunity to do everything from lofting and pattern making to layout and setup and micro ballooning and fairing and boarding and painting and joiner
welding?
work. Pardon me?
Any welding?
A little bit of tacking, but
Yeah.
that was such a specialty that
Yeah.
you would just tack and there would be people that were really artists to do it.
Right.
So
And how long were you there?
I was there for 8 years.
So that was essentially your early education.
Yeah, my apprenticeship.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's great. And where did you head after that job?
Well, one of the partners who was the salesperson came up to me in the yard, and we had he was one of our ice boating friends.
Yeah.
And I had built an ice boat or two or three for him, and he came up to me in the yard one day and said basically, well, you see this guy over here, he wants us to build him a boat, but we can't build it, and you need to go talk to him and then go build him what he wants. He basically said, you're out of here.
Right.
Go do that. And I had always...
You're out of here with an opportunity, though.
Yeah, and I had a shop that I had set up from the start,
Mm-hmm.
because, you had to, for $2.85 an hour, whatever it is, you had to have two jobs.
Right.
So I already had the shop and tools and the space to
Yeah.
take care of what he wanted, and that's actually the boat right there. So, yeah, I was off to build this gentleman a 32-foot schooner, which was a great opportunity because by that time I had burned into my head all the Chappelle schooner lines and set out building that schooner on a blank loft floor, adapting some lines to build that from scratch,
Okay.
which I've got some pictures of.
So you that obviously your Chappelle book has gotten a little bit of use. For my listeners out there, he's got his Chappelle book over there that is literally falling apart at the seams. I mean, I've never seen a better illustration of the term "falling apart at the seams," and I'll make sure I post a picture of that on the website as well. So that started early, where you were studying lines and drawings and everything else.
Yeah.
Do you have a question? I saw you peeking in before.
I need to borrow you for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Pretty important.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All
I
right.
hate to interrupt. but
No, I can
don't think
edit
I
this and
must have
pause it and
listened
everything else. So. Okay, and we're back. Duty calls, right? We gotta answer the questions and
Yeah.
yeah. So we were talking about the Chappelle book. Where do you think? I'll say this nicely. Where do you think your obsession with hull shapes and lines and drawings and things came from? Because there's clearly a bit of an obsession there, I think.
Well, that's the responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That's the responsibility of the boat builder. I don't think that there's really any greater responsibility a boat builder has to the designer and the buyer and the user than to, get the hull form to be what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's a process that starts with lofting so that my experience when we would get a project going up in the loft and working with the really veteran lofts people and their diligence and their approach and the various designers coming in from Alden and Sparkman Stevens, and this was serious design boat building, and just the whole feel of the loft and the precision and the responsibilities was certainly not lost on me.
Mm-hmm.
And it really bled through the whole yard, because when you walked out of the loft with patterns and you gave it to the tradespeople, they were, I think, treated with the same responsibility. So that was really that really drove the yard.
Can you elaborate a little more on the responsibility? What responsibility exactly?
Well, the responsibility of laying down a set of lines and then really making sure that they're correct and fair, and working to a degree of precision that's, in fact, when we lofted intent, we took it to tenths of an eighth.
Okay. Wow.
So working to tenths of an eighth, as we did on intent, to be as precise to the original model that Ned Hairsoff had carved. That was the degree we wanted to take it.
Right.
So it's the responsibility of laying down the lines, which, may seem perfunctory, but those lines were from generations of designs, and those lines were the personal trade work of somebody who had dedicated their life to designing boats. And that, to me, was a pretty weighty responsibility. That was their life. So the transaction of getting a set of lines was accepting the responsibility and then gaining the trust of the designer to reproduce what was there.
It's also you're dealing with history here as well. When you talk about someone like Nathaniel Hairsoff, you don't want to get into a game of telephone, so to speak, where you take the lines off of one of his models, and 100 years from now, someone takes the lines off of one of your boats, and if those lines aren't perfect, they're going to get more imperfect as that boat progresses. As 200 years from now, someone else takes the lines off of that other boat. Now you're so far away from the original design that you really didn't do your job at that point. So, yeah, that's a very heavy responsibility to try to get that first build as close to those lines as possible.
Right. Well, that's why you see the lofting that was done over there to tenths of an eighth.
Yeah,
and
that's a pretty small
getting it right.
distance.
Well, we also had to build boats that had to measure into the sailing rules, so that there were outside measurements that had to be met. And then there were weight constraints that you had to deal with as well.
Right. Now, what is, just a little off topic, what's the margin of error for like a one design boat? Is there a margin of error there? Does it have to be dead on?
Well, when we were building to the IOR rule, the rating was largely dependent on the hull form.
Okay.
And if it didn't have boat in the right place or too much boat in the right place, then it changed the rating,
Okay.
and that's something that couldn't be altered.
Right, okay.
Although we did go back and alter boats by cutting the stern off, but whatever you were given for lines had to, in the end, measure into the
makes
classification rule.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, okay. All right, great. So
or
now,
you didn't get paid.
yeah, right, which is the ultimate goal, I guess, right?
You got to do that too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you've gone from your apprenticeship job, essentially, off to build the schooner. And at this point, are you essentially kind of starting your own business?
I did, yeah, and I worked single-handed for about a year in putting the shop together, framing, planking, decking, deck house, most of the cockpit joiner work in the first year on this 32-foot schooner. And then I got a commission to build another boat, so I hired a couple people on, and that was really the start of about 10 years in my Wisconsin shop.
Yeah. What was the name of your company?
It was Shea Marine Builders.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Excellent.
I still have a poster around here.
I actually saw.
Yeah, it's right up there.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's one of our, that's actually a Sparkman Stevens design that we built.
that's great. Nice and laminated. I love it.
Yeah, so we were doing wood composite racing sailboats, and then traditional plank-on frame boat repairs, and a fair bit of classic motorboats, Chris Crafts, Dodge Water Car, Hacker,
Now you were building these at this point, or you were repairing?
restoring.
Yeah,
Yeah,
restoring,
which is really particular work. The
Right.
woodwork and the finishing is pretty extraordinary, and we just redid a classic Chris Craft last winter, which came in totally decrepit and went out just glorious.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, not easy.
They're nice to look at. Those
Yeah,
Chris Crafts.
yeah,
They're very
not
beautiful.
easy. Not easy woodwork finishing.
Okay. All right. So we've got. We went through 10 years. You did a lot of repair work. Did you? How many? Did you build a lot of new boats, or was it? You think it was the bulk of it was repair?
It was mostly new boats along with repair and restoration.
Oh, that's great.
And we had a good group of trade guys, and one of the projects that we got was a commission from the then Manitowoc Maritime Museum, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and they had acquired the builder's notebook of a clipper schooner that was built in Manitowoc called the Clipper City. And the designer builder had apprenticed with, and I'm not recalling his name, was it Day or someone else in Boston who designed the Clipper ships?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar.
So he worked building and designing the Clipper ships and moved to Wisconsin and built Clipper schooner scows.
Mhm.
They were centerboard boats.
Yep. Yep.
And we built a full-scale replica midship section of that Clipper City boat out
Okay.
of timber, and it was all pegged. And
Right. Right.
so it was a traditionally built full midship section lodged in the museum.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And that led me to a working relationship with Henry B. Berger,
Mm-hmm.
Berger Boat Company in Manitowoc.
Yeah.
They had been building boats there since 1863,
Okay.
63, 65. And he was on the board of the museum, And because I had some building experience, which he seemed to appreciate, he asked me to go to work for him in Manitowoc. And it was at a time when the IOR rule had changed.
Okay.
So not everybody was building a new boat every year.
Right,
So I sold that shop and went to work for Henry Berger in his yacht building business in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. And he was building, at that time, fairly large alloy motor yachts,
Mhm.
but not in much different sequence and order and trade work than they had done there for the past 100 years.
Wow.
So it was really, really a rich place. The
Yeah.
buildings were 100 years old.
Oh, must have been beautiful.
And all the patterns for the old boats were there. And, you know, there were guys on the floor working with their grandfather. So there was, you
Right,
know,
right.
generations there.
Oh, what a cool place.
Yeah, yeah, it was really rich. And, you know, I'm always interested in how things work. And there was something about the yard and how it worked that that sort of puzzled me, because some of the skills in layout and fitting were really almost scientific, how the various guys were doing things.
Right.
And so I asked one of the fitters, he was fitting up a deck house to go on to a hull, and he had it set up, and he was scribing it in a manner that was really pretty unique and really precise. And I asked him, well, how did you learn that? Well, it turned out that Henry had early on had a production manager who was trained at MIT,
Okay.
who was able to use his processes and thinking and that sort of thing
Interesting.
on the shop floor. And it turned out that he generated little drawings, some of which I found on the walls, on how to do, you know, layout and scribing and, you know, all these basic skills. And some of the guys still had his drawings
Nice.
in their notebooks. They
Yeah.
had various notebooks. So it was really an eye-opener in that that there was a formal but yet informal program of processes. And the yard also had something that I found to be hugely, fundamentally important, were their quality standards. So they had quality standards for what they did that were everything from simply don't let water get in the boat.
Yeah,
Here's how you caulk something, to prescriptions for deck hardware, and really amazing how to, let's say, lay out an elliptical tapered cap rail. If you can imagine a 100-foot motor yacht with a big cap rail that's
Right.
elliptical
Yeah.
and tapered all the way, being really perfect. How do you do that?
And he had all these processes kind of lined out.
Yeah, and he had taught everybody. So that was really, those informal but formal quality standards were, to me, really important to have that as your baseline in the boatyard that everything could work from. And it gave everybody a common understanding that really, was there.
Right.
It was part of how it worked.
That's great. That's great. And that was kind of one of the initial conversations we had, was about how your shop is laid out and how efficiently it's laid out, where you've essentially got stations where people can accomplish different tasks in different areas of the shop. all at the same time, if need be. And that's probably where you got a lot of those ideas was there.
Yes, being able to understand the whole process and take things from beginning to end is essential in boat work and really unique to boat work, where you're tasked to take everything from log to launch and understand all the processes and be able to execute those processes in a quality manner really requires the space to do it. And setting up the space for whether it's mill work or joiner work or paint work is really important. Otherwise, you just can't be efficient.
Yeah, you're killing time with just your setup time. Okay, well, let's get back online here. After you're still out in cold Wisconsin.
Indeed.
Where did you go after that?
I worked for Henry until he sold the company, and worked with the new owner starting a yard down in Florida to expand their operations. And
So
I
you
got
went from
that.
Wisconsin to Florida.
Yeah, lots of boats there,
That's a big change.
but it's still a boat yard.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
so-
Boatyard's a boatyard.
I set up their production and service business in Florida, and actually was called by the partners in Sturgeon Bay at Palmer Johnson to go back to work for them. We had been building boats and seeming to make a go of it. And
So you found yourself, once you were into your own business, the Shea Marine,
yeah,
you found yourself quickly almost in high demand, where people were actually coming to find you for work.
yes,
That's great.
yeah.
Great. That's fantastic. Okay, so you're down to Florida, back up to Wisconsin.
Yeah, and then in the following 10 years, work the yards, transition from basically I guess I'm trying to think of the best way to describe the transition from let's see, what's a good way to describe it? Well, the push really was boats were getting bigger, and the traditional organization of a yard enabled highly skilled work, but it also, the demands of bigger boats took more peripheral organization, so that you were able to get a complex group of demands from owners and designers, classification societies, costs, deliveries, pulled into something that would work on the shop floor and not change the shop floor, because there's a way yards work and the way yards work well in and among themselves, so you just have to be able to feed it. So from more complex designs and demands and more people, how do you get that to work on the shop floor? And that was really what the 1990s were all about, because there was just an exponential change in yacht building.
Okay. So you're almost consulting at that point.
Well, no, actually responsible for managing the yard.
Yeah. Okay.
So managing 200 people and
Wow. Okay.
20 or 30 million dollars a year.
Now, were you still building at that point, or you more just?
I didn't
just
have time to work on boats too much, although
Yeah.
I still swept floors.
That never ends.
It's the only way to know what's going on.
Yeah. Right. Now, was that hard for you, not having the time to actually get your hands dirty and more managing?
No, not so much.
Yeah.
It really enjoyable. I mean, I was working with people that I had, basically grown up with in the trades. They were, a lot of the people there were people that I started with trade work, so it was good.
Okay. All right. Wow, you had quite the education in boating. I mean, you started with sweeping floors, and now you've come up through managing the whole business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's amazing, and everything in between.
Yeah.
Where'd you go after that?
Well, the company was sold in 2000,
Okay.
and I had been, in the 1990s, been all over the world, everywhere,
Yeah.
with customers and boat shows and meeting other builders. And it was at another juncture in the industry where the production building of bigger boats was starting to happen.
Okay.
That went from building 50 footers to 60 footers to 90 footers. And I had a relationship with Norberto Ferretti in Italy, so I picked up on what he was doing in Italy and opened up the importation of his boats into the United States. Plus,
What was Norberto doing in Italy?
well, Norberto started with his brother building wood sailboats. He's an old, and built some power boats, raced power boats, did all those hair-raising things, and then put together a group of investors and was buying small Italian boatyards and keeping those Italian boatyards doing what they were doing, but aggregating their product into one marketing
Okay. Yeah.
arm, which was called Ferretti Yachts.
Yeah.
And the evolution of boats took place at a time when there was also an evolution of the business and marketing of boating and the sales of boating.
Mm-hmm.
And the late 90s and early 2000s were really about aggregation of small boatyards into bigger boatyards,
Okay.
or smaller marinas into bigger organizations. And the brewer yards are a good example of that
Right.
aggregation. So I was hooked into working with them, as well as taking care of, on various accounts, customers that I had worked with over the years, and spent a lot of time on projects around the world.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. All right. Where did we go? Where did we go after that? So you're traveling throughout the '90s. And,
Yeah, well, traveling through the 90s, running a yard, the early 2000s, mid 2000s, taking care of customers and projects around the world.
Mhm.
Australia, Turkey, China,
Yeah.
yeah, all over.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, the jet setting life of the boat builder.
Yeah, yeah,
Not a
yeah.
term you hear very often,
Well,
unless you're in sales, I guess.
yeah, and then 2008 sort of torpedoed everybody and everything.
Right.
And it was then that I decided, I've done I've done that thing,
Yeah.
and decided I would, start building boats again,
Yeah,
do
right.
some trade work.
So what brought you out here to Rhode Island?
Well, in early 2000, it was a better jumping off point,
Yeah.
and I was bringing customers from Europe actually to Ted Hood's yard
Okay.
in Portsmouth, which had changed hands to Hinckley.
Mm-hmm.
But Ted had put together a great group of people in Portsmouth
Yeah.
that were really the best, and still mostly are,
Mm-hmm.
in service work. And I bringing boats there, and also working on some of Ted Hood's projects around the world. It was just the right place to be.
Right. Right.
And Bristol had always been on the map for me anyways.
Yeah.
It's pretty inescapable reading Burnside Street
Yeah.
and Bristol condition and that sort of thing.
Right. Right.
So I moved here in the early 2000s.
Okay, okay. And did you kind of land in this place? Because what we're going to do is probably segue into kind of the history of Bristol Boatworks, Bristol Boat Company. I'm sorry. It's always everybody with the boat shops always ends it with works, shop, company.
Yeah.
You never know which one it is, but. So did you fall right into Bristol Boat Company, or was that, did you have this in mind when you came out here, or was it kind of a discovery when you got out here?
Well, no, when I moved out here, I was still taking care of a lot of projects. But there were boats I had always wanted to build. And again, you know, what caught my eye early on with Chappelle and others was still something I had to do.
Right.
And I had a neighbor who was volunteering here, and he asked me to help on a project that they were working on. So that was my introduction to the goings-on here on Burnside Street in the museum.
Mm-hmm.
And then when this space became available, it just seemed pretty criminal to me almost that this great space was being used for storage and warehousing and had absolutely nothing to do with what Burnside Street is all about.
Right, right.
So I took over the space thinking, boy, that can't be right.
Yeah.
So I think I'll do something about it.
Now, when you say what Burnside Street is all about, what exactly do you mean there? We talked about it already, but for my listeners.
Well, there's really several parts of that, and you know, Burnside Street is synonymous with the Hairsoft Manufacturing Company and the museum, and the spaces here had offered opportunities over many decades for various boat building and boat repair people to get started. It was a good launching place for various businesses. So it's got a heritage of the yacht builder and various builders who utilize the facilities.
Right, right. So these buildings that we're in now were essentially almost a dumping ground of sorts for storage.
Yeah, it had degenerated to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed to me that, you know, number one, the spaces are perfect for this sort of work.
Mm-hmm.
And the you know, the heritage of this area and the museum and Burnside Street should be a more cohesive boat place than just the museum and some old boats hanging around in storage. There was just something missing from the whole program. Having a commercial business and then fitting into various aspects of what could happen in the future on Burnside Street was important to me.
That's great. So the history of Bristol Boat Company, I mean, is that how it came to be at that point, or how did Bristol Boat Company start?
Well, when the spaces became available, you know, my first foot in the door, I could see exactly how it should be set up, and I took a lease and started buying tools and equipment, and everything you see in here, I bought or made and put together in the organization that you see it. And at the same time, I took I took if you will, a license from Hairsoft Design, Halsey Hairsoft, to build intent.
Okay.
As you know, we can build boats, and it's a boat that I wanted to build personally.
Right.
So that was the genesis of this space. It just needed to happen.
And intent is what's the design of intent?
The design is a Nat Hairsoft model number 204 that was done in 1928. a nice little day sailor.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I can see it.
I had, I remember as boats were getting bigger and, you know, you're responsible for pulling together projects. And I remember on a project we had I was putting together a work order for a few $100,000 worth of drawers.
Okay.
Really ornate. I mean, every drawer had its own thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was really pretty extraordinary. And I remember looking at this work order for a few $100,000 worth of drawers, and I thought, man, what's significant about this? And for some reason, it just sort of struck me as sort of odd.
Yeah.
And as a joiner guy, I thought, wow, this is really cool. I mean, look what the business has done. But it sort of struck me as being a bit much.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, one of the part of my business plan here is building boats, but no drawers. Drawers are the bane of fun
Right.
boating.
Right.
You put in a drawer and you need a port light and it needs a curtain and then it gets full and then
Yeah.
you need a bigger boat and
And
then
usually full of junk.
yeah. So drawers, no drawers, thanks.
I like that.
However, if somebody came in and they wanted a drawer, I would probably do that,
Yeah.
just because I have to eat. But no drawers.
I like that. Taking a stand against drawers.
Yeah. Well, no, drawers are fine, but
Yeah.
doesn't do anything for the boat.
Yeah, right. Do you have any boats that you build? Do you have like your own flagship boat that you build to sell new?
Not so much, no. I think on this scale, there's restorations, conservation, preservation work that we do routinely on 12.5s and other class boats. But sailing people are pretty particular to what they like.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really open to, building various types of boat. And, each type of boat comes with a pretty rich history.
Yeah, it doesn't. Just speaking with you today and looking through everything, a spec boat, so to speak, doesn't seem to quite fit in the mold here. Everything is so custom and so meticulous, and yeah, it does seem as though kind of like just manufacturing a spec boat might not exactly.
Yeah, but at the same time, the smartest guy in our business is a Dick Pulsifer up in Maine, who's done the Pulsifer
Mm-hmm.
launches forever.
Yep.
He's the smartest guy in the business.
Right. Yeah.
Just build that boat.
Yeah. Just keep building it. Just
Yeah.
keep throwing it out there.
Yeah, he's the smartest guy in the business ever. Having said that, if there was an opportunity to do something production-wise, I would be way into that because as a trade person, project guy, manager, setting things up with quality standards and a baseline that would feed into a production situation
Yeah.
is really rich and a good thing to do. I really enjoy that. And that's why we have the permanent mold set up here
Right.
for the 12.5 and all the patterns so that we can be very efficient and effective. And, if there was an opportunity to do a production boat or however you want to do it, however you want to call it, that would lend itself to an educational program or community service or whatever training program or higher skill, I think would be really, would certainly fit our mission here,
Right.
because Burnside Street is, it's sort of a public,
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
there's responsibilities to be here on Burnside Street
Mm-hmm.
and being part of the community and having the net effect of your operation be more than boats.
Right.
Being able to leverage your trade work into something more, I shouldn't say more important, but more than just putting boats out the door.
Yeah, giving back. To
Yeah, I gotta
society
do
and
that.
educating type of thing.
Yeah, you know, I didn't get here just because I'm pretty. A lot of
Yeah.
people helped me. Helped me put my kids through school, so
Yeah.
I really owe.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not pretty.
Yeah, right, right. All right, so we can switch gears. So I guess we could call it kind of your elevator speech. What do you have? What do you offer as far as your services go? If you were, if someone stepped into an elevator with you and said, "Hey, I have a 12 and a half. Do you know anybody that fixes those?"
Well, we offer the boat to be returned to what it was.
Mm-hmm.
We offer the customer the relationship that needs to be created in order for that work to be done. And we offer the customer the relationship that would ensure that the investment in the boat, and which really is an investment in his family, be conserved and cared for in the future.
Mm-hmm. And the integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we had a discussion very early on this morning that that boat repair or fixing, if someone brings in a wood boat like an old 1940s Harrisov, you can do two things with that. You can fix it so it floats again, which I'm not going to say is easy, but that's the easiest step. But actually restoring it to what it once was is going the next level. And that's obviously something that greatly concerns you. As you said, when you're just refastening a set of planks onto a boat, pull the old planks off, put the new planks on, that boat could likely take a whole new shape. A lot of those lines will be off. So you're very much in the business of actually preserving those exact lines and making the boat as close as it can be to exactly what it was when it was built.
Yeah, that's really our responsibility. And you know, I have to say, if I touch it, I own it.
Right.
And I've never worked on a boat that I've never lost the responsibility of or to, either the boat or the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in traditional construction, all the parts are so interconnected that doing bits really doesn't really doesn't take care of the boat, and really doesn't take care of the owner unless it's done with a conservation-minded, preservation-minded, form and function and construction-minded program.
Right.
And you know, that's inescapable. And I guess there's whiz bang, holy cow, surefire methods for doing quickie repairs. But I can't live with that.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
it's just not there.
the folks that own these boats, like a 20-foot Harrisov or something like Intent, they don't typically own them because they want to let their kids go sailing in the bay, or because they want to go out fishing, or they don't own them because they're just a functional boat. They own them because they're probably part of their family's heritage, or they're a collector. It's not. They don't buy these boats specifically for their function, although I'm sure they are very, they use them for the function as well. But these are usually boats that people own for a greater purpose than just functionality, I think. So
Yeah.
I think that you definitely owe that to them.
Yeah, I like to think when we're done, the owner of the boat might get lucky enough that his grandchildren let him use it.
Right. Yeah. That's, yeah, I kind of feel that. And I see, I
Yeah.
own a fiberglass tub of a boat, and I don't even know if I'll let my kids take it out.
I know there's pictures up here of boats that I built for my kids. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean the generations of trade skill, the generations of design wizardry
Right.
that have gone into a lot of good boats is worth preserving, and it really is becoming a bit endangered.
Yes.
And there's a lot of practical, personal things to be learned. Kids in boats, adults in boats. You know, you learn about honesty and integrity and responsibilities
Accountability.
are all real accountability. Yeah, those are all. You know, that's part of why we're here.
Right, right. Okay, this is the last section. This is what I call the lightning round.
Do I get to call? Do I get to call somebody for help?
Um, Now, in this whole discussion of you building and being around all of these beautiful boats, before we go to the lightning round, I didn't hear any discussions of you boating. Are you a boater as well, or are you more into just into the boats?
It's killing me not to be sailing right now.
Yeah.
Look
yeah.
at.
So you're a sailor.
Well, I was fortunate enough to be able to sail on some really great boats, you know, trials, and with people that really were good sailors.
Right. Okay.
I mean, really good sailors, really good sailors,
Yeah. Right.
and really good sailboats. I love to sail, and you know, building intent has given me the opportunity to sail, and you know, Narragansett Bay is just an extraordinary
Right. Yeah.
place to
I've
live.
heard.
It's one of the, you know, of the 2 or 3 reasons being here, Narragansett Bay is certainly part of it, and sailing on Narragansett Bay in a boat that you built is okay.
In a boat that you built,
Yeah.
I mean, I could see taking out I'm building a 12-foot Bobcat, and that'll be really exciting. But when you're talking about a Nat Airsoft, that's a whole other ball game. Yeah, that's. So, would you consider Intent your boat, or is that a?
Well, it is, and you know, I built it and we put it on the market, and you know, it's a expensive day sailor.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's not a real thick market for that. But from day one, it was, you know, well, that's a boat
Too
I would
big.
like to own. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's
but I
great.
would certainly sell it because there's 4 more boats that I need to get started on.
That is a common thread among all boat builders.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my boat. Do you want to buy
But
it?
yeah.
But it's for sale. Every boat's for sale. Okay, so here's a lightning round. Question number 1 is sailor power. Clearly, that's sail.
Oh, power boats are very cool too.
Yeah.
The next boat I build would be a power boat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a Warner design.
So what would your choice be, sail or power?
For the next boat?
No, just for boats in general. If you could only have one boat.
Oh,
It's a tough question. A power sailor.
yeah, you could say that. I'd sail.
Sail, yeah. Life jacket when you're sailing, you have it on or on the
I
seat?
do.
Do you?
Yeah, I got one of those nice new ones that,
The inflatables?
yeah.
Yeah, those are great.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
One of the things is you can't get back on these boats.
Right. Oh, okay. Because the freeboard's so high.
Yeah, you can't get back on.
Yeah.
Chuck Payne is also one of the smartest people in the business, and he's got a little step on the rudder of his small
That's what I
boat,
have on mine.
so he could get on board.
There's a step
so-
on the rudder, and there's just another step on the transom.
Yeah,
They're bronze
yeah,
steps. Yeah,
yeah. I go out single-handed sailing when nobody else wants to go out, and
You,
sometimes
so you'd be out there in this cold right now.
it's not cold.
I
Cold
where-
is when the ice is
I
3
forget you're
feet
from the
thick.
polar vortex of the United States.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're an ice boat sailor, so yeah, that
Yeah.
cold is of no issue with you. Football or baseball?
Who's that?
Yeah, got that.
No, I grew up standing on the sidewalk watching Vince Lombardi.
Right.
That was better than school.
America's Cup. Do you like the Speedy Cats or the classic yachts?
It's a new world.
Yeah.
It's a new world. Nat did his cat.
Yep.
So, we played with carbon fiber now
And they
30
scoffed at
30,
Nat for it, too.
35 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's part of a builder's responsibility is selecting the best materials, light, strong,
Yep. Putting out the fastest boat.
Yeah, fast is important.
I'd love to see them out there in the big old airsoft yachts racing, but like you say, it's progression. It's
Yeah,
you got to put the fastest boat.
yeah, they
out
did
there.
that, yeah.
So, okay. When you're sailing, tiller or wheel?
Tiller, thanks.
Absolutely. And here's an interesting question.
Even on a cat boat,
Yeah,
yeah,
I wouldn't give up my tiller for
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
I didn't buy a hairsoft because of the wheel. That's one of the reasons I bought the Marshall.
Right.
So a boat's in here, you restore it. It's beautiful. To use an odd term, since I'm here, it's Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
And it rolls out of here. Are you happy or sad to see it go? Or indifferent?
Well, number one, they all go down the river.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody told me that
Yeah.
way long time ago. Listen, kid, they all go down the river.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
get too attached.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, if I was to recount my life, it would be more in the terms of what I was building than
Right.
which kid we just had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you remember them all, and you have a responsibility. And I still see boats that we built decades ago. So,
Right. So you're probably a little sad when they roll out.
well, happy that they're out doing what they should be doing.
Right.
So that's a good thing.
All right. Before we dive into this, why don't we wrap this?
Okay,
this up?
see ya.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
For the interview. Thank you for your time. And just thanks.
We'll rock and roll. Well, let's stay in touch. Don't be a stranger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. Again, if you want to go check out the shop, I'm sure Dan would be happy to show you around. Bristol Boat Company down in Bristol, Rhode Island. Absolutely beautiful down there. And you can see Defiant sitting out front. It's a America's Cup boat from 1992. Quite a display, quite an awe-inspiring display of boat designing sitting out there in front of the Hairsoft Museum and the Bristol Boat Company. If you want to connect with me on Facebook, you can just search for Heritage Boatworks. I am on there, and Twitter, HeritageBW. By all means, follow me, and I'll follow you back. And check out my Facebook page. It's pretty active. Also, again, if you could, let me know if you're interested in t-shirts. I'll keep the price down as much as I can, depending on how many orders I get. And going there and filling out the form is not getting a shirt. It's just kind of giving me an idea of how many to order. So heritageboatworks.com/t-shirt. All one word. So, let me know. They're nice shirts. Hanes Beefy Tees. The artwork came out real nice on them, so they're pretty nice. Let me know on that. And I hope you all are having a good winter. I'm suffering through it and looking forward to getting back on the water, but it seems so far away. So yeah, I'm gonna follow up with another interview. I've already got a guy in mind out in Marblehead, I think, Massachusetts. So I should have another interview for you before the end of December. I'll try to get it out before the new year. Fair winds to y'all, and have a Merry Christmas.